episode 11 of One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing the world premiere of Tammy Ryan's Seven Cousins for a Horse, directed by Jonathan Winn, running through July 23rd at Ridgefield Conservatory of Dance at 440 Main Street in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Set in Colchester, Connecticut, Seven Cousins for a Horse tells what I can only presume is a fictional retelling of Ammi Phyllis and his visit with his cousins, the Kinney family. Ammi made a career of traveling around the United States painting portraits. His most famous work, Girl in Red Dress with Cat and Dog, is apparently the first folk art piece to sell for $1 million, which happened in 1985 or 1986, and is part of the collection at the American Folk Art Museum in New York. Ammi, played by Will Jeffries, is suffering from a life that would break even a country songwriter's heart. His horse is old and needs to be put out to pasture. His occupation as a painter is starting to lose cultural interest with the recent invention of daguerreotype, so he's no longer making the money he used to make. And worst of all, his marriage is fracturing after the death of his 4.5-year-old daughter, Sadie. Her real name was Sarah, but the name is understandably changed, as you will discover later. Ammi is invited by his Kinney cousins to visit them in Colchester to paint their portraits in exchange for a hardier, younger horse. As the play suggests, there are 7 Kinneys in total, but only 5 of them are ever seen on stage, as the youngest daughter, Susan, is away and the son, Andrew Jackson, though home, never appears on stage for reasons that I feel aren't adequately explained. He's a boy of nature, apparently, and over the course of the month or so that Ammi is there, he never comes in for a sitting for Ammi to paint him. Anyway, each of the other family members take their turn sitting for their portrait. Each time they sit, the scene turns into a confessional. As when alone with Ammi, each of them take the opportunity to discuss what's eating them. Much of the family conflict circles around 2 major elements. One is the political divide in the household, as the second oldest daughter, Harriet, played by Shannon Helene Barnes, is both an abolitionist and a suffragette. She and her fiancé Lucius, played by Aidan Meachem, are very vocal about their liberal politics in front of her Jacksonian Democrat father, Nisus, played by Jason Peck, who is okay with abolition so far as it means sending black people back to Africa, and the idea of women's liberation is ludicrous. The other major conflict surrounds the third youngest daughter, named Sarah, and this is why names were changed, played by Emmanuelle Nadeau. Sarah is dying of consumption, something Nisus hasn't had the heart to tell his wife Sally. Another name changed, as her name was Sarah in real life as well, played by Bridget Ann White. Meanwhile, Sally laments on being overworked, and the eldest daughter, Jane, played by Emma Factor, who is 27, is becoming distraught over the perception of her being an old maid. Not of being married, as she has had little to no interest in men, but of how being an old maid will potentially affect the rest of her life, since opportunities are few and far between for women in this time. All these concerns affect not only the family as conflicts interconnect between the family members, but Ammi himself, who initially wishes not to get directly involved with the political debate. Will Jeffries does give Ammi a strong emotional connection at the proposition of Sarah dying, though, and the best scenes of the play revolve around him and Nadeau. Their relationship as Ammi and Sarah are extremely tender and loving, with a bitter twinge of melancholy. The ensemble cast as a whole is great. I particularly like Factor's sinking despair as she reveals Jane's fear to Ammi. It's beautifully done. The weakest part of the play for me is the political arguments. It's not that I disagree with Harriet's point of view. That's not the issue. It's that it tends to get so self-righteous and single-minded, it gets to the point that Harriet's character loses definition. Since it's Ammi where the action hinges to, Jeffries must lead the cast, and does so with degrees of sentiment and warmth. He spends most of the play behind his easel, painting his various subjects, listening and reacting to their various lamentations. With his character already being weighed down with so much from his own personal life, he has a lot to bear, and Jeffries delicately balances Ammi's own fragile state with being a voice of support for his cousins. If I were to change a few things, I think the spectral remembrances Ammi has aren't necessary. They are actually a bit confusing at first, as the different actresses playing the daughters portray these characters. Like, for example, Nadeau plays the girl in the red dress in the painting I mentioned earlier, and she just kind of pops up, and I'm like, Why is she doing this? It doesn't work, at least the way it's being represented. Some of the dialogue early in the play between Nisus and Ammi feel anachronistic. That could be due to either the language or the direction of the acting. I'm not too sure. It just felt unnatural compared to the rest of the play. The ending is a bit clunky too. There are 2 false endings that could have had better transitions from scene to scene so the audience wasn't applauding with the thought that the play had ended. And by the 3rd time, I just waited for the actors to come out and bow. Also, I think Ryan picked the wrong narrative conflict to bring the play to its confusion. I won't reveal which one it is, but it's one that has less emotional impact on Ammi, and I think a different choice with the conclusion would have had a stronger impact on the play's epilogue. But for a premiere of a new piece, Seven Cousins for a Horse is a solid production. Led by Jeffries, the cast is excellent. I would love to see how this play develops over time and matures. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Seven Cousins for a Horse, I'll leave a link where you can get tickets in the description. Thank you to all my patrons on Patreon for your support. Time is running out to submit for the drawing to be my +1 on July 27th to see The Cottage on Broadway, so if you can make it and you're a Neo patron or higher, be sure to enter. You can support my channel by either becoming a patron or by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be Westport Country Playhouse's production of Dial M for Murder. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.